This just changed everything for XRP. And no, it's not just price action, because everyone is watching XRP's chart. But smart money is watching this one update, and it could decide whether XRP breaks out violently or gets trapped in another fake pump. Right in this video, I'll show you the one level that decides if XRP explodes upward or drops hard next. And at the end, I'll give you 3 targets plus a safe strategy so you don't get wrecked. XRP holders, do not ignore this. Because over the last 24 hours, the conversation around XRP shifted. Not with memes, not with hype, but with regulatory positioning, the exact thing that institutions care about the most. And the reason this matters, because XRP's biggest story has always been regulatory clarity. And now we're seeing something that looks like a timeline lock-in, the kind of development that makes big money move before retail even notices. Welcome back to Finance 24, where we break down the latest XRP breaking news today, the smart money flow, and exactly what to watch next. Watch this whole video because I'm going to show you. White heavy check mark, the update nobody's pricing in. White heavy check mark, the breakout trap zone. White heavy check mark, and the 3 XRP targets if momentum flips bullish. All right, here, the update. Ripple has been pushing for stronger clarity and structure in the US, specifically urging the SEC to clearly separate what counts as a securities offering versus the token itself trading in the market. That sounds boring, but it's powerful. Because institutions don't buy narratives. They buy legal clarity plus predictable frameworks. Ripple sending these kinds of policy signals is basically saying, we want the rules written clearly so you can't randomly label tokens as securities later. And that matters because XRP is coming from a historic legal chapter where the SEC lawsuit ended with Ripple agreeing to a $125 million fine, while the ruling and settlement dynamics clarified how XRP sales were treated. So this isn't just old news. This is a new phase. White heavy check mark post-lawsuit positioning. White heavy check mark framework discussion. White heavy check mark market structure decisions. And what does that create? A confidence signal, the exact thing that can trigger a fresh wave of institutional positioning. Because once big money believes the rules are stable, they don't wait for your YouTube's thumbnail. They buy first. Now here where things get interesting. Everyone thinks XRP pumps because of hype. But the truth is, XRP moves hardest when regulatory risk drops. This is why you saw huge attention during major legal milestones, because clarity unlocks exposure. And right now, that's the key theme again. XRP regulatory clarity plus market structure talks. B-roll animated risk meter dropping from red to green. On-screen text, risk down arrow equals price up arrow. So what's smart money watching? Not your indicators. Not your trend lines. They're watching. White heavy check mark, how policymakers talk about crypto. White heavy check mark, how agencies define securities. White heavy check mark, and whether XRP becomes less risky to hold. Because once XRP becomes less risky, funds can justify allocations. And we've even seen mainstream reports pushing XRP forecasts based on sustained adoption narratives. Now let's connect this to price action and why the chart is about to make a decision. Okay, now watch this carefully. Right now, XRP is tightening. It's compressing like a spring. CoinDesk recently described XRP trading around $2.05 with a tightening range, basically a make-or-break zone. And these moments are dangerous because Retail sees sideways and gets bought. Smart money sees compression and prepares for violence. White heavy check mark key support zone, demand. If XRP falls into the lower demand zone and holds, that's where dip buyers step in. That support zone is where liquidity sits, and whales often sweep it to scare people out, then reverse. White heavy check mark key resistance zone, supply. Above price, there's the major resistance where sellers keep defending. If XRP breaks that level with volume, then the market flips from range/uncertainty, right arrow to trend/breakout. And this leads to the one line you must remember. The one level decides everything. If XRP closes above it, bulls win. If it rejects hard, bears control and liquidation hunting begins. Now in part 2, I'll show you. Direct hit the 3 realistic XRP targets. Warning the breakout fake-out trap. And a strategy that protects you even if XRP dumps first. Don't skip, the next section is where the money is. Alright, now let's get real. There are 2 ways this plays out, and smart money prepares for both. White heavy check mark bull case, breakout scenario. If XRP breaks resistance and confirms, meaning. White heavy check mark strong candle close. White heavy check mark volume expansion. White heavy check mark buyers defend the breakout. Then XRP moves like this. Breakout. Retest. Aggressive continuation. That's the clean, bullish path. And if you combine that with improving regulatory clarity vibes, markets can price the narrative fast. Cross mark bear case, fake out plus sweep. But here's the scary part. XRP is famous for fake outs. What happens is, price breaks a level. Retail jumps in. Then whales slam it down, triggering stop losses and liquidations. This is called a liquidity sweep. So how do we avoid it? We don't chase. We confirm. And this leads to targets, but only once confirmation happens. Now let's talk targets, the part you came for. On-screen text, XRP targets revealed white heavy check mark. B-roll, chart with 3 targets numbered. Direct hit target 1, first expansion zone. Once XRP breaks and confirms, the first target is the nearest expansion zone, where early buyers take profits. This is usually a quick move. Direct hit target 2, major supply zone. This is where the market often pauses. Because white heavy check mark late buyers arrive. White heavy check mark early whales sell into hype. White heavy check mark volatility spikes. If XRP reaches here fast, expect pullbacks. Direct hit target 3, breakout continuation zone. This is the big target. If XRP breaks into this zone, the narrative goes mainstream again. XRP next big move. Ripple XRP update. XRP price prediction. And that's when retail attention returns massively. Now I'm not giving moonboy numbers here. These are realistic technical targets based on structure, liquidity, and how XRP historically moves. Now listen, this is what separates pros from gamblers. Because even if you're right, you can still lose money with bad execution. So here's the safest plan. Smart money strategy. White heavy check mark strategy 1, wait for confirmation. No chasing. Entry rule. White heavy check mark breakout. White heavy check mark retest. White heavy check mark hold. If it fails, you don't enter. White heavy check mark strategy 2, DCA plan for long-term holders. If you're holding XRP long-term, use DCA. Buy small amounts at key support zones. Never all-ins. Save cash for dips. White heavy checkmark strategy 3. Stop loss discipline. Stop loss is not fear. Stop loss is survival. Because the market can do a liquidity sweep first, then pump later. And if your account dies in the sweep, you won't be there for the pump. Now let's zoom out. Ripple's legal chapter with the SEC was the biggest overhang for XRP, and recent reporting confirms the case concluded with Ripple agreeing to a fine and the SEC ending the lawsuit, following the earlier 2023 ruling on institutional vs public sales. So what's the market watching now? Not will XRP survive, but white heavy checkmark, how XRP fits into regulation. White heavy checkmark, how crypto is categorized. White heavy checkmark, and whether XRP becomes safe enough for broad institutional exposure. That's why this policy/framework conversation matters. Because institutions move where the risk is lowest and the upside is asymmetric. So XRP holders, hear the question. Is this update the start of XRP's next major breakout? Or just another trap before the next move? Backhand index pointing down, comment right now, bullish or bearish on XRP. If you want daily XRP latest news, XRP breaking news today, and professional technical levels. White heavy check mark, like this video. White heavy check mark, subscribe to Finance 24. Bell turn on notifications. Because the next update can drop anytime. And when XRP moves, it moves fast.